Have you ever wondered why Brazil speaks Portuguese while almost every other country in South America speaks Spanish? Or why English is spoken from Canada to Australia, even though England is a small island? And why do thousands of different languages exist at all? At first, the answer seems obvious. People moved, empires expanded, but that's not the whole story. Today's languages came from one of history's greatest journeys, begun tens of thousands of years ago. So how did they spread across entire continents? Around 300,000 years ago, the first modern humans appeared in Africa. We don't know how they sounded, but scientists agree on one thing. These early humans communicated, sharing ideas, warning each other of danger, passing knowledge to the next generation. Language became a survival tool. It let people cooperate like no other animal could, learning from stories instead of experience, facing danger together instead of alone. As thousands of years passed, small groups left Africa, spreading into the Middle East, Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Imagine these groups like branches growing from the same tree. Once separated by mountains and oceans, their speech slowly began to change. Language doesn't change overnight. Parents teach children who grow up with slightly different pronunciation. New words appear, old ones disappear. Generation after generation, these tiny changes add up. After thousands of years, people notice accents. After thousands of years, entirely new languages emerge. Think of the game of telephone. A message slowly changes as it passes along, especially over 5,000 years. This happened again and again across the world. Every isolated community became its own living language laboratory. Some groups invented words for snow, others for desert animals. Coastal people needed words for tides, farmers for crops and seasons. But vocabulary was only the start. Grammar evolved too. Word order shifted, sounds got easier to pronounce, all through speech alone. For thousands of years, language lived only in people's memories. Then something changed. As villages grew into cities, people began trading with strangers, connecting communities once isolated. Merchants carried more than food and tools. They carried words too, like foreign names for fruits or weapons. Even today, English holds thousands of borrowed words. Words travel just like people do, but that's not the whole story. Some languages spread through trade, others spread because kingdoms expanded and their language became the language of government and law. Learning the dominant language opened doors to trade, work, safety, or simply talking to those in power. Slowly, more communities adopted it. The map began to change. Some language regions grew, others disappeared. Another force shaped the future: migration. A drought or conflict could send a village on the move, language and all. Sometimes newcomers mixed with locals, sometimes they replaced them, and sometimes both languages survived, shaping each other for centuries. Languages almost never stay pure. Whenever cultures meet, they trade words and ideas, a process still happening today. Imagine pouring blue paint into yellow. You don't get two colors, you get something new. That's what happened across Europe and Asia. By now, thousands of languages had appeared across Africa, Europe, and Asia. Some would vanish, others would thrive. One family in particular would spread farther than anyone imagined, its descendants spoken today by nearly half the world's population. That story starts on the grasslands between Europe and Asia, the Pontic-Caspian steppe, 6,000 years ago. At first, they looked ordinary, but one advantage would change history. They learned to ride horses. No one knows who rode the first horse, but once humans mastered it, distance shrank. Weeks-long journeys now took only days. Families could travel farther, traders reached new markets, and with every journey, they carried something invisible, their language. Many linguists believe they spoke a tongue called proto-indo-european, never spoken today, never written down. So how do we know it existed? Languages leave clues, like finding old keys copied from the same design. Take the word for mother. In English, it's mother. In German, Mutter. In Sanskrit, one of India's oldest languages, Mater. These words sound different, but they're related. The same pattern shows up in father, brother, and heart across dozens of languages. These aren't coincidences, they point to a common ancestor. Scientists piece together this lost language like solving history's oldest puzzle. But language alone doesn't spread, people do. Groups left the steppe in every direction, west into Europe, south and east into Asia. One branch became Greek, another became Latin. Others grew into Celtic, Germanic, and Slavic. As they settled new lands, their language kept evolving, each region adding its own words, accents, and identity. Yet the family resemblance never fully disappeared. Even today, millions unknowingly speak words born on those ancient grasslands. Language spread for many reasons: peaceful migration, marriage, trade, or sometimes simply because an army changed the map. When powerful groups expanded, locals often learned their language, not always by choice, but because it opened doors to survival. Complete replacement was actually rare. More often, languages mixed, borrowing sounds and vocabulary that still linger today. Other language families grew elsewhere. Chinese along its rivers, hundreds of tongues across Africa, Semitic languages in the Middle East. The world was becoming a mosaic of languages, every migration and trade route reshaping human speech. Then came an invention that changed language forever. Humans learned how to write it down. Once language could be written, it could travel farther than any person ever could. Around 5,000 years ago, writing appeared independently in several places: clay tablets in Mesopotamia, papyrus in Egypt, characters in China. For thousands of years, language lived only in people's minds, passed down through memory. Then, everything changed. Writing let words outlive the people who spoke them. Kings could send orders, merchants kept records, ideas could travel farther than ever. But writing didn't create languages, it preserved them. Many were spoken for thousands of years before anyone wrote them down. As civilizations grew, language became a tool of government. A shared tongue made laws and taxes easier to manage. One of history's greatest examples was Rome. Latin spread with its roads and armies, becoming the language of law. Soldiers spoke it, officials used it, merchants traded in it, teachers taught it. But most people didn't speak perfect Latin. They mixed it with local languages, and over centuries, those differences grew larger. Eventually, one language became many. Latin evolved into Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, and Romanian. Around the same time, Arabic began spreading from the Arabian Peninsula, carried by trade, science, and religion. As Arabic spread, so did books on mathematics and medicine. Language became a bridge for knowledge itself. Far to the east, China took a different path. One writing system understood across regions, even where spoken dialects differed. Someone from one province might struggle to understand another's speech, yet both could read the same characters. Meanwhile, the Vikings sailed the northern seas, merchants crossed the Silk Road, and ships carried spices across the Indian Ocean. English borrowed sky, egg, and window from the Vikings' Old Norse. Foods and inventions often kept their original names as they spread. No civilization developed alone. Trade carried ideas, inventions, and languages, every culture absorbing something new from its neighbors. Then came one of history's biggest turning points, the Age of Exploration, as European ships crossed oceans once thought impossible. They reached the Americas, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific Islands, connecting continents and their languages for the first time. Some exchanges came through trade, others through conquest. Powerful empires built new governments and their languages followed. Spanish spread across Central and South America. Portuguese became Brazil's language. French reached parts of Africa and Southeast Asia. From a small island, English spread across the world. Through exploration, industry, and science, its story was only just beginning. By the 15th century, English was barely spoken outside its island. Chinese, Arabic, Hindi, and Spanish had far more speakers. England became a powerful maritime nation, its ships and merchants reaching new markets, its colonies spreading across the globe. Wherever colonies grew, schools taught English, governments used it, Businesses depended on it, creating millions of new speakers. The Industrial Revolution began in Britain. Factories and railroads transformed the world, and much of it was described first in English. Then, the United States rose as an economic power. Hollywood, television, and later the internet spread first in English. Today, English is used in dozens of countries and has become the bridge between people who don't share a native tongue. A pilot in Japan can talk to air traffic control in Brazil. Scientists and business leaders worldwide often work in English. The surprising part? Most English conversations today happen between people who aren't native speakers at all. English didn't spread because it's easy. Its spelling is famously confusing. Think through, though, thought, and tough. English became global not because it's simple, but because history placed it at the center of trade and opportunity. Today, there are around 7,000 living languages. Some are spoken by over 1 billion people, others in a single village. Every language carries its own history and culture. Sadly, nearly half of them could vanish within the next century. Sometimes only a handful of elderly speakers remain. When the last one dies, a way of understanding the world disappears. But language never stops evolving. New words appear every year, and the internet spreads slang across the world in days, not centuries. For the first time in history, someone can speak into a phone and be instantly understood in another language, something once unimaginable. So what happens next? Will one global language replace all the others, or will thousands continue to survive side by side? History suggests something different. Languages rarely vanish without a trace. They borrow, mix, and evolve, just as they always have. The story of language really is the story of humanity, every migration, empire, and invention adding another chapter. So the next time you hear an unfamiliar language, remember, it tells part of the same human story, still being written today.